Everything is the same on the internet, at least. The same old platforms, the same old memes, the same old messaging platforms. You get the point. Nothing is really different. It's all like condensed into a few different platforms that feel the same and have the same upsides and the same drawbacks. It can be so annoying when you're just going about your day on any of these platforms and you run into a specific issue that should be solvable, but it isn't because, well, it's the industry standard to not have that problem solved. But this wider topic is for a different day because I just want to focus on one of the most controversial entities in the tech space right now, Mozilla. A lot of you who are watching this probably know what Mozilla is, but if you don't, I'm going to give you a refresher. Mozilla is a community that develops and supports free software for the entire internet. And I say a community specifically because Mozilla is structurally more of a community than anything. It's split into two entities. The nonprofit Mozilla Foundation, which is like an advocacy and think tank group that directs the for-profit Mozilla Corporation. And the Mozilla Corporation develops the software that we all use like Firefox, Thunderbird, anything, Pocket, you name it. Additionally, since they make free and open source software, there's always a larger community of people who just submit code or suggest changes or improvements for their programs. So Mozilla is, there's the nonprofit and the for-profit part of it, but there's also the wider community that comes as a result of it being so entrenched within the free and open source software space. Because, hey, that's what it's all about, collaborating and creating stuff. Amidst all of these good and upstanding things, of course, Mozilla is most known for Firefox, which is one of the most popular web browsers and is also my personal web browser of choice over there on my computer, which I'm recording on my buy a Mac if you need that, which I don't have the money for one. I liken Firefox to being the Swiss Army knife of browsers. It can be customized and modified in almost any way you see fit because, well, it's open source. You can get extensions, appearance changes via the store itself, or more extensive appearance changes via CSS, you name it. You can literally program your Firefox to look different in CSS, and I have seen some crazy results. I've used some of these developed CSS files on my own Firefox install. They look crazy. And there's a whole subreddit called r/Firefox CSS if you want to see some of these. Fantastic work. You guys are cool. At one point, Firefox was just up. They were up in mainly like the 2000s. And even 10 years ago, in November 2014, at the time making this video, Firefox still had a market share of almost 12%. That might not seem like a lot, but this data is skewed by Internet Explorer for some reason, being in the double digits. Seriously, people were still using Internet Explorer by this point. I don't know. I'm probably too young to remember. And the fact that Chrome dominated by this point, of course. However, it was still on par with Safari, which was a major browser. Firefox, among all others, was a trailblazer for privacy features as well. They truly cared about the well-being of their end users. Well, here's the thing. Due to mismanagement and the dominance of Chrome to a lesser extent, they fell off. So in terms of the present Mozilla and Firefox, Mozilla is essentially on life support right now. For years, they've been stagnant and reliant on their search deal with Google to make Google the default search engine on Firefox. And Google paying other browsers to make their own search the default is like part of the reason why they're fighting an antitrust case right now, but that's besides the point. Mozilla being completely reliant on Google's funds has been called out, as it's raised serious questions about Mozilla's dedication to its own mission and protecting privacy, since Google's business model literally depends on closed source software data tracking and its users having no privacy at all. That's just, they're an advertising company. You have to have a lack of privacy in order to recommend personalized ads. In other bad news about Mozilla, they started installing random extensions that took users' data without their consent. That's also another thing that goes against their core principles. And the whole debacle with the CEO salary rising despite Firefox's tanking market share and Mozilla making less money. There were also multiple huge layoffs, and they seemed to start going against just everything that they were doing. All of their core values, their own manifesto, their belief in free and open source software. They were engaging with closed source software, which isn't inherently bad, but when you push and are advocating for more open internet and software, that is not a good look when you're doing that on the side and under closed doors and sweeping it under the rug. And that brings us to the most recent headline as of November 2024 that prompted this video. Wait, what? And all this brings us, wait, bro, oh my gosh, I just need to get this one part right. And that brings us to the most recent headline, the one that prompted this video. As of late October 2024, the Mozilla Foundation has cut 30% of its workforce and eliminated its advocacy and global programs divisions as part of a restructuring of the entire company. Now, I understand that there are bills to pay, mouths to feed, that sort of thing. But these people, these were the ones that were advocating and spreading awareness about having a free and open web. If the layoffs have reached a point where they've reached a team so central to the purpose of the entire foundation, things are looking really, really bad right now. And these are the second layoffs of this year, the first ones being in February 2024. I hope that in revisiting how they want to approach advocacy, that they do plan to re-implement many of the things that this team did, but Mozilla, for now, are still ending much of the efforts that this team focused on. So overall, it's a really sad trend for Mozilla, and it's really sad for the internet as a whole, since Mozilla had such a large impact on the internet. It's more specifically the open source side of it, the open part of the web, which should be a bigger part of the internet, but unfortunately, it isn't. And now we're going to get to the spicy part of this video, the rising monopoly. In terms of how we access the internet, or specifically the World Wide Web, there are two options: Chromium and the others. Web browsers need engines to render all the fantastic websites that you go on. And if you notice, Google Chrome's logo looks very similar to the logo of Chromium. Well, that's because Google Chrome is based upon Chromium. Chromium itself is based on the Blink rendering engine, which allows you to see everything on the internet and on the World Wide Web more specifically. Blink is sort of confusing because it also contains the V8 engine as well, which is not to be confused with car V8 engines, LS engines. You guys know I love cars. But it renders the cool JavaScript, the cool interactive stuff you see on websites, that sort of thing. Without V8, you wouldn't be able to render JavaScript, and every site will be static with minimal interaction, just like reading and basic functions. It wouldn't be fun. Firefox has its own version of V8 called SpiderMonkey, and Safari has its own called JavaScript Core, which is like the most Apple-sounding name I've ever heard. Little lesson in the structure of web browsers. They're complex and they require constant upkeep to make sure that they are secure and that they are able to render sites quickly and correctly. That is why you really shouldn't download any random browser or anything like that. You gotta make sure you're using something secure. Yeah. That part is probably not going to be in the video. It's probably going to get caught. Google develops Chromium, and it has complete control over just about everything on it, from the design to the extensions allowed in the Chrome Web Store. Anybody can fork Chromium and build their own web browser because, well, Chromium is free and open source, but Google still controls and can do what they wish with it because they are the ones that develop it. And when Google wants something, they will get it. It's a successful company for a reason. And then, of course, when we get into Google Chrome, that's really where Google can institute whatever they want because it's closed source. And that's why you see so many headlines about Google Chrome being a bit sus. So now we have all of these browsers like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, the newer one, not the one from years ago, Brave browser, Opera, and some other lesser known ones. Vivaldi's pretty cool, I won't lie. But here's the thing about all of these browsers. They're still Chromium and Blink based. Safari and Firefox aren't. All of these Chromium browsers are pretty much the same thing with like a few added features. Google Chrome has Google account, business and all that sort of thing. There's Microsoft stuff in Edge. Brave has its own cool ad blocker that's based on the Rust programming language, which is just like a cooler C++. And, most of these browsers are just based on this singular browser made by Google. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, why should I care about this? It makes no difference to my usage anyway. I'm still going to be able to go on YouTube and watch funny videos about, I don't know, like Skibidi Toilet or something like that. Well, it does. It does matter. When you let a singular entity control the market, in this case, the browser market, being controlled by Google without any competition, it by definition becomes a monopoly. And Google is not privy to their whole little position in the market right now. They know, and they're taking advantage of this in other little areas of their business. We do not need that happening in something as critical as web browsers. Look no further than ad blockers. Google instituted Manifest v3, which essentially just provides major security updates to Chromium at the expense of extensions, particularly ad blockers. Now, I'm not saying that Google made Manifest v3 specifically to kill ad blockers. No, there are security benefits here to be had, and security should be the number one priority when it comes to a web browser. Cool, right? Well, you can't tell me there wasn't at least some thought put into this. Seriously, there was no attempt to even try to keep uBlock Origin or any of these ad blockers alive. After all, having no ad blockers is good for Google's business since they are an advertising company. Ad blockers protect your privacy, and they also block you from seeing ads and clicking on them, which is that's two things that go against Google's business model. It's really bad. And that's where Google makes most of its revenue from to begin with. Advertising. And in other news, we all know how YouTube's policies have been controversial with creators and users of the site, with their crackdown on ad blockers being the highlight. When you have this much control over it, you can do whatever you want. This is what happens when one company has control over something as extensive as the internet and the web. The overall trend on the internet has been consolidating, and we are beginning to see the negative impacts of that. Now, what Google doesn't have control over is browsers not built on its technology, and for that matter, anything that isn't built on its technology. But browsers in particular are very important, as they allow you to access the rest of the internet. They are the middleman. You don't have a browser, you're not going to be going on cool websites. Namely, Firefox and its Gecko engine, as well as Safari and its WebKit engine. Well, okay, Safari isn't available on non-Apple devices and it's closed source per Apple's business model. It doesn't support the internet in the same way that other browsers once did, and now only Firefox does. If Firefox development were to stop one day, there would be very little competition for Chrome outside of Safari, and hence we would see an increase in anti-competitive and anti-consumer behavior. Remember Internet Explorer? It was terrible, and it held a chokehold over the entire internet. Do we want that to happen again? I don't think so. We gotta fix things, and we gotta get it together. Not saying that Google is going to do that, but that is what history says happens. Now, for the average user, a Google dominance over the web can affect users beyond ad blocking. We can see Google enforcing web standards that only benefit Google's services and the Chrome browser. Remember AMPs? They just take web pages and just make them worse. That may be a bit subjective, but that's an example. For the average user, a Google dominance over the web can affect users well beyond ad blocking. We can see Google enforcing web standards that only benefit Google services and the Chrome browser. And let's recall, Google Chrome, while great from a technological standpoint, is very, very known for tracking its users to an almost creepy degree and providing no privacy whatsoever, because you're using a browser made by an advertising company and they want your data and they want to make money. I can't keep reiterating that. When one company controls our access to the entire internet, it can limit, why is my screen turning off? Okay. Why, my iPad screen is just turning off. When one company controls how we access the entire internet, it can limit what we're able to do, what we're able to see, and the ease of use we have with accessing the internet. It can shape the internet itself in ways that we don't fully understand yet. This isn't meant to be a grr, Google bad, Google's bad type of video. It's more meant to be a video about Firefox and the freedom of the web's development. Competition and diversity breeds the development of the internet and tech. Without it, things eventually become stale and they lose the innovative edge that they once had. And worst of all, they become solely profit-driven. I'm not opposed to closed source software. I'm not opposed to people wanting to make bands. But I feel that it should be about developing and improving. We shouldn't be charged for software that doesn't improve and is hostile to us as end users. The future of the internet will be worse if we let it go that way. However, I believe in voting with your wallet or your time or your attention or whatever. Whatever you are investing with, vote with that. If you don't like it, at least put in an effort to not support it and instead support something that you do like. While we as individuals can't change what Mozilla does from the outside, here's the thing. Firefox remains a good browser, and by using it, you're supporting it and other efforts to create free and open and cool software that isn't hostile towards users. There's tons of free and cool and open source software. I almost just knocked off my hat. That is out there for you to use. And if there's a proprietary closed source and better paid alternative to use, then use that. Whatever is best for you. But what I want you to do is exercise your right of choice. Take control over your technology and what you decide to use. You don't like Instagram and how it makes your depression worse and just worsens your mental health and all the bad things that people say about Instagram and social media nowadays. Bite the bullet and just try not to use it for a week or so. I get that it's easier said than done in social media's case, but the point stands. If you don't like paying $1 bazillion for, I don't know, program X, then stop using it. Try to find an alternative. Even if it isn't as good, it might still meet your use case. If you watch my Kindle video, you'll know that $20 e-readers that really don't have the latest features can still meet the use case of the majority of people who are buying them. My personal case with using some sort of alternative software is with Adobe software. Everybody complains about Adobe, and we'll get to Photoshop later. But I used to use Adobe Spark a lot. Here's the thing. There are plenty of alternatives out there for it that are both open source and free and closed source and paid. Photoshop, you can use GIMP. It's completely free, as in like $0. GIMP is completely free, as in $0. And we all know how much Photoshop costs. It's like an obscene amount. Fully open source and does many of the same things as Photoshop at the expense of an admittedly worse UI and less quality of life stuff than Photoshop. And, as we get more into the AI age, you're going to be losing out some of those features, but people were doing fine without them. So, it just depends on how fast you want to be working. For the vast majority of people, these open source alternatives do the job completely fine, and they're free, and they don't destroy your wallet. You should consider them. Will I maybe someday use, I don't know, a paid video editor like Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro? Possibly, but I don't need it right now, and I can't really afford it anyway. I use an editor called Shotcut. It's simple, it's free, it's open source, it's cool, it does everything that I need it to do. So I feel like I'm not really in much of a rush to pay more for any fancy video editor. I'm doing fine. And by using this software, I'm still getting a good experience, and I'm not like spending $1 bazillion, and I'm not supporting bad business practices that are hostile towards the users. I'm exercising my choice when it comes to my technology. You don't have to be a tech expert to make a difference. Just choosing Firefox over Chrome or supporting alternatives to closed software is a step in the right direction towards a more free and open internet. We need a free and open web. We as end users, regardless of what Mozilla or Google or any other developer is doing, can shape the internet and move towards one. I don't know if this video is going to reach many people, but if it reached you, I just hope that you'll at least consider switching and shaking up your use of technology and the internet to one that's going to be more friendly towards you as a user and the world and the web. Because really, we need the internet to feel a bit more human, given that we're going into the age of AI especially. There's all these things like, rumored ChatGPT bot accounts and the dead internet theory and, social media is making us feel, bad in the head. But, I really do believe that we can make the internet a better place, just as we can make the world a better place. I might be a bit of a crazy optimist, but I think we can use some of that in the world sometimes, You don't have to move to Linux, talk on obscure forums and IRC channels, or have like some 2008 cyberpunk looking laptop to support a free and open web. Just exercise your right of free choice, whether that be a change in your software or a change in your lifestyle. It's up to you. But the internet is always going to be around. So just help shape it in a good way. Help shape it to become what you want it to become. That's really all I have to say, though. If you're interested in any of this stuff, I highly suggest reading up on Mozilla's backstory, reading into the free and open source software movement. And if you like this video, you might also like my old GitHub video or my old e-reader video. Both of these, they're tutorials. One's about getting yourself a cheap e-reader. The other one's about how to use GitHub, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are programmers and possibly also aspiring ones like me who are, trying to learn how to do programmer cool stuff. So go check those out. You could also download like Krita to draw some pictures or something like that. I don't know. Look, it's MS Paint on steroids. It's open source. It's free. And I use it to make my thumbnails, okay? Thanks a lot for watching this video. Thank you guys for 650 plus subscribers. That is absolutely crazy. Thanks for recommending books in the comment section on my Kindle video. Yes, I've looked at all of those. Yes, I have such a long list of books that I have to look at now. But, you know, over the course of my entire lifetime, I'll be able to read all of those. Trust me. The responses under there were really insightful and cool. And you guys are just awesome. You guys are cool. I needed those. Thank you. Subscribe if you want to come along for this little ride we got going on here. I like making cool videos. And I'll see you around. Dude, look at the cameraception. Oh, that is cool.